shahawat. People will obey their temptations. They'll follow their temptations. وَاتِّبَاعُ الْهَوَى. Once again, they will follow their desires. Their main aim and objective in this life is to satisfy desires, is to fulfill temptations. It is to feel good all the time at any expense that it may take. And then the Prophet said that at that time, وَتَعْظِيمُ الْمَالِ. That's another of the signs of the apocalypse. The glorification of wealth. Salman was standing next to the Prophet, as we mentioned. Suddenly Salman was shocked. He said, Ya Rasulullah, أَوَيَكُونُ ذَلِكَ? Will that happen? In other words, back in those days, to say that money will be glorified was shocking. Money wasn't glorified at the time of the Prophet. And do you know what I mean by money being glorified? It's about assigning values to human beings based not on their character, but on their bank statements. Based on how much money they possess. Based on how big their estate happens to be. Don't we do that in this day and age? Just watch the news. Whenever a big shot celebrity falls sick, suddenly everybody makes it their business to know about it. Because they're rich. If Donald Trump caught a cold, everyone has to know about it. Why? Because he's such a great messenger of God? No, because he's rich. People's values are determined and are directly linked to how much money they have. Ta'zimul mal. Our respect for people is based on how much money they possess. In fact, there's one tradition which really sends shivers down my spine. The Imam says, or the Prophet rather, says that if you respect someone for their wealth, and by the way, this can happen spontaneously, without you thinking about it or meditating over it. It happens because, well, the guy is rich, he's a member of the community, I see him, I glorify him, I respect him extra, as opposed to someone who isn't as rich, without you really being conscious of all of this. The response that you have is very much spontaneous. The Prophet says that if someone respects another person for their wealth, they will face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment in the worst state possible. They will burn in hell for that. And the Prophet gives a description of how they'll be burning in the fires of hell. But moving on. Ta'zimul mal. Now, inshallah, in the next few nights, we'll be talking about some of these signs. The fact is, though, that we are approaching the end of times. And in our pursuit of perfection as human beings, we try to create a perfect system of government. We try to create the perfect utopian paradise, as it's referred to. A country that has everything, a nation that enjoys everything that a society may need. But we continually fail. If you look at all the ideologies that have come and gone, I mean, you have communism, imperialism, even capitalism. They've all failed. Now, they might have failed at varying degrees. I mean, some of these isms are less damaging than others. But all that does is that it extends their shelf life. It means that this system will last a little longer than the others. Communism didn't really last very long. In fact, China today, if you look at the way their economy functions, those people who go to China and they deal with Chinese companies, they know what I'm talking about. The economic structure of China in the year 2008 is not communistic at all. They've had to be pragmatic. They've had to change. They've had to adapt, and they've had to evolve. And today it looks very much like any other capitalistic economy anywhere in the world. So Marxism or communism fails a lot sooner than capitalism. But capitalism also fails. Francis Fukuyama calls this the end of history, our era. He says this is the end of history. This is by far the best system that humanity could come up with. And he cites the example of the United States of America. He says, it doesn't get any better than this. With all due respect to him, I think he's been watching too many movies. Because our window into Western civilization is what? It's Hollywood. But if you remove those glasses and you look at society as it really is, you find out that there are millions of people who are destitute, millions of people who are living below the poverty line, millions of people who are in fact homeless. There's war, there's famine, as we explained. Is this the best society that humanity could create? Is it? Well, my answer is probably so, yeah. But it's the best society that humanity can create. This is as far as we can go. But is it the best society that there can be? The answer is no. Brothers and sisters, the brothers are asking me to get everyone to stand up and move a little forward. There are brothers and sisters standing outside in the cold. Let's all do so by reciting the name of Al-Qa'im al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Askari. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. May Allah bless those who recite the salawat on Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Qa'id al-Ghurr al-Muhajjalin wa Ya'sub al-Muttaqeen wa Imam al-Muslimin Asadillah al-Ghalib Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli. So is this the best society that there can be? The answer is no. Let me ask you a question. A lot of you might know the answer. What are the biggest selling drugs in the world today? Painkillers and antidepressants. The family of Prozac. What do? They remove, or they try to tackle or treat anxiety and depression. The biggest selling drugs. You know what that means? It means that we can't destroy pain, so we alleviate it. In other words, we make it a little less severe. That's all we can do. We can't create perfect, lasting happiness, so we simulate it. We create these virtual worlds where we immerse ourselves in them, and we pretend that we're happy. We pretend that we have serenity. We pretend that we're doing fine. That's probably one of the reasons behind the extreme popularity of the internet for teenagers. Because they can go and play, Second Life? Is that what they call it? And also the immense, explosive popularity of Facebook and other similar websites where they go into these virtual worlds and they pretend to themselves, they fool themselves into thinking that they have a lot of friends and they have a wide network of acquaintances. So we can't create happiness, real, tangible, lasting happiness and tranquility, so we simulate happiness. We pretend to be happy. And that's one of the things that will be addressed by the awaited Savior. When the Imam reappears, he will create a drug-free happiness. These major drug companies will have to shut down their businesses because the Imam will create happiness, a real sense of security. Inshallah, in the upcoming nights we'll talk more about the world after the reappearance of the Imam. But our primary concern right now is the world prior to the appearance of the Imam, because that is a lot more relevant to us than the other world, than the other period. What's going to happen prior to the reappearance of the Imam? There will